All right. So for commercial banking, what you can see from this topic is we are going to look at both sources and uses of funds and the structure of financial statements, the risk of financial institutions, as well as part 2 will be focusing on banking products and services, card services, and also internet banking, and a little bit on Islamic banking. All right. Okay, so if you can see from your notes and also your book, we are going to look at, first of all, the definition of bank. All right, so this is actually under FSA, Financial Services Act 2013. When we talk about bank, it is actually a licensed bank. You must have license to operate a bank. And under FSA, a bank is a licensed bank is defined as a person licensed to carry on a banking business. Okay, so what is the functions? We can discuss the functions ataupun kita kata banking in business. What do we have? What does bank do? Okay, so we have gone through these general topics. The discussion is actually on topic 1. Kita ada cerita-cerita sikit lah about banking. But here the focus is on commercial banking. So all your assignments is actually regarding this topic. That's why saya kata hari tu the assignment ni kena buat after kita actually tengok all these commercial banking products and also services. Alright, so these are actually basic services provided by the banks ataupun basic functions of banks. First of all is receiving deposits, alright, and then paying and collecting checks drawn by or paid in by customers. Provision of finance, okay, which including lending of money, leasing, factoring, as well as other business allowed by Bank Negara, alright, with the approval of MOF of course. So MOF is Ministry of Finance. So kita tengok under topic 1 hari tu kita dah ada the chart kan. So semua ni the banks ni actually report to Bank Negara Malaysia, and then Bank Negara report to Ministry of Finance. Okay. So these are basically when we talk about commercial banks. So kalau you tengok dalam kita punya performa, we have commercial banks as well as investment banks. Okay, but the focus is the big chunk of banking institutions ataupun kita kata banking business in Malaysia ni is actually on commercial banks. So we can say that commercial banks are actually the largest and the main players in the banking system. So the characteristic of commercial bank, they provide current account facilities where payment can be made through issuing checks. All right, and these are the functions of commercial banks. So ada 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. We can focus one by one. The first one is mobilization of savings. So whenever you have savings and to save your money, so you go to commercial banks. All right, and then they also have current account, savings account, as well as fixed deposit accounts. And also besides mobilization of savings, whereby it is a financial intermediary, and ini boleh pergi balik kepada topik 1 lah, where we talk about financial intermediation. So these banks besides help us through by giving us place to save our money, they also provide facilities such as ATM, checks, saving books. So these are all the facilities provided by a commercial bank. Granting loan and advances to business and also individuals for working capital, WC working capital, investment as well as consumption. So semua jenis loan lah. So according to your assignment, the bank of your choice, mana-mana bank yang dah assign tu, so you can see. So from the bank products or services, so they provide all kind of savings lah. Ada yang savings untuk ladies lah, saving untuk retirement, macam-macam kan. So different sort of functions ataupun facilities provided by our commercial banks. And also they grant loans and advances, so including all the personal loan, car loan, business loan, agricultural loan, semua tu lah. And then also include financing of government through purchase of government securities and T-bills. Yang ni kita dah buat masa kita belajar money market hari tu. Also functions of a commercial bank, and as well as provision of various banking facilities and services authorized by Bank Negara Malaysia. So you can see kalau kita tengok kerana dekat bank kita ada untuk counter forex kan. So those are the services authorized by Bank Negara, especially for cross-border payment, trade financing services, treasury services, as well as dealing with foreign exchange. So these are basically the functions of a commercial bank. Right? Okay, sources and uses of funds and structure of financial statements of banking institutions. Alright, if you remember, I have this question in your midterm exam. Tapi walaupun ni dalam topik 7 ni, these are actually been discussed in topic 1. So ada yang boleh jawab, ada yang tak berapa nak boleh jawab lah. Alright, so when we talk about sources and uses of funds, so if you remember when I explained to you the difference between banking institutions and other types of companies, is actually terbalik kan. So sources and uses of funds. So let's say if you're looking at retail company or retail business or construction business kan, kita tengok the asset dia biasanya asset lah, the asset type dia ada land building, dia ada cash. Cash at bank will be their asset, and the liability would be all the loans apa semua lah. But for banks dia terbalik. So we can see from here sources of fund, so means that where does the bank get their fund ataupun their money, their capital, mana dia dapat. So it comes from, of course, the capital lah, capital reserve, and also profit, their retained earnings, the currency deposits, the borrowing, funds from other financial institutions, insurance, provident and pension funds, and also other liabilities. Okay, ini semua datang dari kita kata the sources of their funds. You can go to your financial statement of the banks. Contoh, let's say your assignment is on Maybank or Public Bank or Standard Chartered. So you can go to the financial statement and tengok dalam financial statement itu apa dia punya bahagian asset dia ada apa, bahagian liability dia ada apa. Uses of funds, okay, deposit with other financial institution. Jadi deposit, mana kita as customer deposit money to the bank, that will be their sources of funds. Bank pun can put their money with other financial institutions. So that would be deposit with other financial institutions. So loan and advances. So these are their assets, the securities, the forex reserve, and also other asset. So asset dia duduk dekat sebelah sini, uses of funds. Liability dia duduk dekat sources of fund. Alright, so this is the example of statement of financial position of a bank. So this is from, I think, M-Bank for March 2021. So the format of the financial statements, walaupun kita kata uses and sources, is actually the same. Format of financial statement sama je. You will see the assets, liabilities, and also equity. The difference is that, like I said, for other types of companies, the asset can be land, building, cash at bank, debtors. But for banks, their asset, or we can say that it is a users of their fund. So these are the assets, and these are the liabilities. So deposit from customer is actually their liabilities. Deposit and placement with other banks would be their assets, loan, advances, and financing. So the one that I tick here is actually the major composition of their asset and also liability. So if you look at the asset here, the highest composition comes from loan, advance, and financing. So the major type of asset of a bank is actually from their loan, advance, and financing. And their major liability, if you can see here, the highest number comes from deposit from customer. So majority of the banks or majority of the financial institutions, when we talk about liability, the highest portion coming from deposit from customer. Our deposit, our savings to the bank is their liability. And the loan that they give us is actually their asset. So this is for M-Bank for 2021. So basically, if you compare with other banks, normally the highest portion of asset and liability goes to this quite similar items. So this is their statement of profit or loss, also for M-Bank. So from here you can see nanti bila kita buat I think dalam topik bank management code, you will see a term called spread. But for a bank, how do we actually determine their profit? We are actually looking at their interest income and also interest expense. Because kalau you tengok kat sini, semua dia cerita interest je. Okay. So let's say this is the operating revenue. And then we have here interest income and interest expense. Alright, the spread ni is actually the net interest income. The higher ataupun the wider the spread is actually the better. Because bank expect to have a higher interest income compared to their interest expense. So nombor ni baguslah. Basically net interest income yang positif is a good number. Okay. But for mBank ni, for year 2021, they are experiencing a financial loss. Nombor dalam bracket ni. So this is during PKP. So year ended March 2021. Maksudnya dia datang daripada April 2020. So during PKP, as you can see, banyak even banks, they are making losses. Alright, again we will discuss about risk of financial institutions. So you will also see the risk topics in topic 1. You can see also in topic 1. And then here the focus is actually more on commercial banks and what are the risks faced by commercial banks. Apa saja dia cakap dah. Alright, why financial institution needs to manage risk? Alright, so the difference between financial institution risk and whatever risk yang kita dah tengok sebelum ni, ada some of them are actually similar. Because when we talk about financial institution risk, they really need to manage risk because they are dealing with kita kata financial information kan, because they are financial institution. So the major objective there is actually to increase the financial institution returns for their owner. So in this case, even though they do not have foreign customers, they can still be exposed to foreign exchange. Because why? Because when we did foreign exchange market, we can see that banks also provide services to importers, to exporters, so they also have risk, even though they do not have, maybe they don't have foreign customer, but their customer is actually dealing with overseas accounts or overseas business. So these are the risks that they have to take. All right, we can distinguish the risk faced by financial intermediaries by focusing on one, what we call as an off-balance sheet risk. The other one is balance sheet risk. Balance sheet is a financial statement, a financial statement of financial position. So when we call it as a balance sheet risk, we are talking about all the information included in the balance sheet. For example, this one. This is our balance sheet. Okay, so when we talk about balance sheet risk, we are actually talking about all these items in the financial statement. Okay, so another one is ataupun kita kata off balance sheet risk, which means the risk outside of this balance sheet. Okay. Alright, so one is actually balance sheet risk. Another one is whatever items or elements outside the balance sheet. Alright, so these are the balance sheet risks. Again, balance sheet risks are actually risks related to items inside the financial statements. So first of all, we can talk about credit risk. So ini again, if you go back to chapter 1 and chapter 2, we talk about credit risk already. It is actually a risk of non-payment on maturity date, which means when the banks give borrowing ataupun financing to the customer, there is a risk that they are not able to get back their money. Senang cakap macam tu lah kan, when you give loan, so it's not easy for you to get back that payment. So that is a risk called credit risk. And it is arise due to promised cash flows on the financial claims held by financial intermediaries will not be paid in full. So kita kata default ataupun no default, right? So for default, which means the financial intermediaries ni earn zero interest and may lose part or all of the principal lend. Kalau kata no default, meaning that they can earn coupon on the bonds and interest on the loans, which means they can get back their amount that they lend to the customers. Right, so that is credit risk. Because kalau kita tengok dalam financial statement tadi, deposit to customer or deposit pula. Loan and advances to customer kan, banyak dekat sini. Here. Alright, so here. So the credit risk, so this is the major part of the assets. So that would be their credit risk dekat situ. Alright, so for credit risk, we can again divide into two. Firm-specific credit risk and also systematic credit risk. So I think for this one, kejap tengok credit risk, not paid in full. Okay, ni semua cerita zaman dulu-dulu punya implications of growing credit risk. Alright, so here, if you can recall, that is why because of this, nanti later on dalam bank management profitability pun kita akan tengok what bank does actually untuk make sure that they get back their money. So whenever you give money, you lend money, of course you will expect them to pay back. So what bank has done so far is one what we call as a credit screening. Of course, there is a credit screening to see whether you are credit worthy to give you certain types of loans, because they have to manage this credit risk. They cannot eliminate, they can, but they can manage, because you never know your credit performance. And importance of monitoring credit extended. Let's say if you give, because there is a mechanism provided by the banks. For example, if you make a loans for example, kita kata 9 years katakan, alright, and monthly payment, let's say 900. But due to some situations, you are not able to pay that 900, but you are able to pay maybe around 700. So you can discuss with the bank, they can give you certain schedule for, they kata reschedule balik the payment. And whenever they give you credit extension, let's say, okay, asalnya 7 years, and then now you get, normally when you do some refinancing ataupun kita kata rescheduling, the credit term ataupun the credit period will be extended. And normally the bank will monitor whoever customer that they have their credit extended. And also diversification of credit risk. Ini tak payah tengok lah, this is just a chart. Alright, second one is liquidity risk. So again, so these are the types of risks that we have discussed before in chapter, I think chapter 1 and also chapter, if I'm not mistaken, capital market. Dalam capital market kita tengok juga ini. Liquidity risk, when the depositor demands immediate cash and holder of balance sheet exercise rights to borrow. So this is the liquidity risk. So cash asset to meet the demand for withdrawal of funds and borrow additional to meet any shortfall. So liquidity crisis ni biasanya, because you must remember there is we need a balance kan between surplus and also deficit of funds. So liquidity risk ni happen kalau tak balance lah. And it will eventually lead to solvency problem. That is why kita tak pernah dengar lagi kita ada bank yang bankrupt because they really control their liquidity risk. So risk of being forced to borrow or sell assets in a very short period of time. Ini pun example US punya lah, Ohio Savings Institution ni. So runs may turn liquidity problem into solvency problem. It start with a liquidity problem. Maknanya aset tak cukup untuk cover the short term asset ni ataupun the current asset tak cukup untuk cover the current liability. But if you cannot cover your current liability, so imagine what happened to the long term liability. Memang tak boleh cover lah. So it will eventually turn into a solvency problem. Masalah lagi besar lah. Alright, so for liquidity risk, we have two types of liquidity risk. Number one is type 1, risk of not being able to convert assets into cash as and when the need arises without reducing its value substantially. So here, this is where banks need to strike a balance between profitability and also liquidity. So what they have to do, they have to diversify their securities. And type 2 liquidity risk, risk of not being able to have access to funds in the market to meet requirements. Okay, so these are liquidity risk. And then we have interest rate risk. Okay, interest rate risk ni pun kita dah cover when we did interest determination topic. I think untuk interest rate ni saya boleh skip je sebab kita dah discuss before about the interest rate risk ni. It is related to economic and present value uncertainties when interest rate change. Alright, market risk. It is related to interest rate and also foreign exchange risk. So it can result in a decline in income from deposit taking and lending matched by increased reliance on income trading. And financial intermediaries, especially banks, they are required to establish controls or limit on a day-to-day exposure risk lah. So market risk ni. And again, this is actually related to when these banks are actively traded their assets and also liability. So kalau dia ada investments, dia ada securities, dia ada financial instruments and also other assets. So they are subject to market risk. All the commodities, kita dah tengok juga dalam foreign exchange tu, kita ada long short position semua. And then kita ada derivative juga, so those are actually risk for under market risk lah. Ini pun US punya example. Saya skip je yang ni. Alright, insolvency risk. Ini risk nak bankrupt lah. In other words, kita kata insolvency risk. So for this one, related to capital, insufficient capital. Let's say capital tak cukup, memang you tak boleh nak cover the business. So kalau kita tengok logic ni pun, running a bank is like running a business lah. Whatever business kan, you need to take care of the asset, need to take care of the liabilities, need to take care of the capital. So kena settlekan kena make sure that your current assets is actually more than current liabilities. So for banks, they are actually exposed to this kind of risk, including insolvency risk. So it can also be from excessive interest rate. Remember kita buat OPR tu kan. Market risk, credit risk, off balance sheet juga, technological risk, forex, sovereign and also liquidity risk. So semua risk, all risk combined masuk can be considered as insolvency risk. So again, those are the risks that is actually related to balance sheet, or as I said before, all the items in the financial statement. So the next one we have off balance sheet risk. So off balance sheet risk ni related to when I highlighted here contingent asset and liabilities, something that is not happening yet. Benda belum jadi, benda belum ada dalam balance sheet atau belum ada lagi dalam financial statement. So for example, if we go back to this financial statement, I have to show you this financial statement because we are talking about off balance sheet items. So these are the balance sheet. Okay, so you look at the item dekat dalam sini. So for example, we have cash, kita ada financial assets, kita ada property and equipment, kita ada other assets, right? Kita tengok asset lah, kita ada property and equipment dekat sini. And then kita tengok liability. Liability dia ada insurance contract liability and other insurable payables or other liabilities. Alright, so these are yang dah confirm, which means property and equipment yang dia dah beli, yang dia dah own. Itu baru jadi dia punya asset. What happened to, let's say, dia baru sign agreement nak beli something. Right, when they sign an agreement, it's not in the balance sheet yet. Baru sign agreement, belum ada. But there will be a commitment kan. Maknanya ada commitment untuk dia bayar. Because ada commitment, let's say dia tengah nak beli new building. Let's say M-Bank ni tengah sign nak beli new building. Okay, but it's not in the financial statement yet. Sebab belum beli, tapi dah sign. So there is a commitment. Maknanya in the future ataupun next year, the building will be in this financial statement. But for this year, belum ada lagi. That is why kita kata dia off balance sheet. So there will be a commitment on the asset part. For the liability, contohnya, for example, ada court case, kena saman. Tengah the ongoing case, belum nampak dalam ni, litigation belum nampak dalam ni. But if let's say the bank has to pay certain amount of money, the next year's punya financial statement, dia akan appear dalam ni sebagai liability dia. But itu ialah something yang kita kata litigation case kan, court case ongoing. Belum masuk dalam ni lagi. But that would be their risk as well. Because dia tak masuk lagi dalam ni because dia belum, for example, for the asset tadi, land and building, dia belum transfer the ownership. Dia baru sign agreement. Benda belum finalize. So whatever things yang belum finalize and not in the balance sheet ni, kita kata off balance sheet risk. Okay, alright. And we call it as contingent asset and liability. Contingent maksudnya belum jadi, but bergantung on certain situation ataupun certain condition. Contingent upon certain event. So we call it as contingent asset and also contingent liabilities. And it can also be on interest rate boleh, on credit risk boleh, on currency risk pun boleh, and as well as we can say as considered as a unique risk lah. Right? So this is off balance sheet risk. Letter of credit and also loan commitment. Macam dah sign kan, sign nak bagi loan dekat customer, baru sign, loan belum disburse lagi, itu tak masuk dalam balance sheet lagi, baru sign, loan belum keluar, itu ialah off balance sheet risk. Once loan sudah keluar, so the next year punya financial statement, that loan will appear as loan and advances. So banyaklah kita ada forward future swap option ni, yang future punya yang belum reflect lagi, that would be considered as off balance sheet risk, but they are still considered as risk. Alright, so this is definition. As I explain dulu, baru keluar explanation dekat sini. Activity that does not appear on current balance sheet, as it does not involve holding a current primary claim or issuance of current secondary claim. So for example, standby letter of credit, backup by issuance of bond by government. Nampak? Standby, belum guna lagi. So it's not in the balance sheet. It will be next year, but not in the current financial statement. So what do banks have to be really careful of? They have to strike growth of balance sheet activities, meaning that they can have certain commitment, they can have certain backup ataupun standby, but it must be a balance between yang off balance sheet ni dengan balance sheet lah. So for example, if they are giving letter of credits, loan commitments, these are all agreement, agreement tapi belum disburse, belum bagi, just an agreement je, macam ni lah. Standby letter of credit to backup je. Untuk backup, whatever backup is not in the financial statement, it is outside, but still a commitment. And also speculative activities. Alright, other risk. Okay, so for other risk ni, there are 4 types of other risk. So pada petang ni kita belajar risk je kan, mengantuk lah semua, walaupun saya tak nampak muka, but I can feel you untuk risk ni kan, but definitely you can read, cuma I need to explain to you the difference between apa yang risk yang kita dah tengok tadi and also this one. Okay. Salah tekan je dia berbunyi. Alright, so the first one is forex risk. Ini pun kita dah tengok masa kita buat topik forex hari tu. So for this forex risk, when the exchange rate affect value of the financial intermediaries asset and liabilities denominated in foreign currencies. Remember, under forex we learn about translation risk and also transaction risk. Itulah dia dekat sini foreign exchange risk. And maybe returns on domestic and foreign direct investment not perfectly correlated. Okay, so there is a foreign exchange risk. Country or sovereign risk. Country or sovereign risk ni kita kata arises from repayment from foreign borrower may be interrupted because of foreign government. Okay, maybe if there are some cases that foreign country unwilling or unable to repay a loan. Let's say bank kita ada bagi loan to someone or some business in Syria, for example. So politically unstable. Bila politically unstable, maybe they are not willing to repay a loan. So there's nothing much that you can do because this is considered as sovereign ataupun country risk. So maybe the banks or the financial institutions will increase repayment probability ataupun kita kata ensure that supply of loans or funds to the country tu dia take care of lah. So, result of exposure to foreign government, which may impose restrictions on repayment to foreigners. Often lack usual recourse via court system. So, these are the example of country ataupun sovereign risk lah. Ni contoh je lah country or sovereign risk when you deal with other countries. So maybe in some cases, there are event of restrictions. And this is where IMF comes in, International Monetary Fund. All right. Next one is technology and operational risk. So these are under category of other risk. So other risk ni banyak lah. Tadi kita kata financial balance sheet risk, off balance sheet risk. And kita ada juga other risk. So this, for example, we have technology and operational risk. Alright, so for this one, technological investment, so do not produce anticipated cost savings. Contohnya, for example, dulu long time ago, few years back, and before kita ada internet banking, so most banks, they are considering using the internet banking as one of their technology advancement. But okay, they have to do a market research. They have to do a lot of research to make sure that, okay, bila dia buat internet banking ni, because they have to have a software, they have to have an expert, kan, ada banyak benda nak kena maintain. Is it a cost saving? Mungkin the objective is actually for cost savings, right? So that people tak perlu pergi dekat bank, and then dia tak perlu ada orang kerja sampai Sabtu Ahad nak kena kerja, weekend kena kerja. They just need, you nak apa-apa semua you guna internet banking. Ataupun if you nak apa-apa, you just call. So dia cuma ada operator je, but they don't have to have a human at the bank 7 days a week, contohnya, for their cost savings. Tapi when they come up with certain technological advancement, does that produce a cost savings? That is also a risk, technology risk. So bila they start with internet banking, ataupun they start with the robot advisor, dia pakai robot je untuk advise, kan, itu semua, does that produce any cost savings? Right, so that is technology risk. Operational risk, maybe the existing technology or support system might malfunction or break down. Okay, kadang-kadang mengamuk semua orang, oh, memang itu tak boleh pakai. You know, so that kind of thing, that kind of risk, so operational risk. And major objective of technological expansion is to increase economies of scale and scope. So we can see not only banking, but banking is one of the industry yang memang advanced. They use technology a lot. Even kita ada macam sekarang kita ada, not only you can learn about financial institution, kita ada financial technology, fintech dia panggil. So kita ada artificial intelligence, dia gunakan robot sebagai advisor, tak guna orang dah. So you nak apa-apa, even kalau you pakai, kita kata apa ni, phone banking, so you just call, ataupun sometimes when you call tak cakap dengan orang pun, semua dalam automated, semua dalam system. So those are the technological advancement that bank need. But that is also a risk lah. Sometimes benda tu they expect jadi elok, but end of the day orang tak suka pakai, kan. So defeat the purpose of having that technology. Risk that technology investment fails to produce anticipated cost saving. Langsung tak save apa-apa, kan, buat penat je. These are the example untuk US juga ni. Last time ada Citibank ATM network, they cut system online banking out for 2 days. So can you imagine? And sometimes when macam kita, if they don't anticipate, that is why during festive season, hari raya ke Chinese New Year ke, sometimes orang macam mengamuk, kan, you go to ATM, alamak duit nak withdraw tak ada. Tapi jarang berlaku. Sebab apa? Because they anticipate during festive season, people nak withdraw a lot of money. So they have to stand by. Kena make sure that semua ATM ada duit. Okay, so that kind of things yang kita kadang-kadang rasa we don't care. Kita nak pergi ambil duit je, kita tahu, kan, but we don't care. But from their side, they have to really take care of this operational risk, especially on the computer system. Operational risk not exclusively technological, right? So if you can see the previous points, we are actually talking about technology risk, operational risk related to technology or existing technology, technology investment. It can also be operational risk not related to technology. For example, employee fraud and errors. Employee can also make fraud and errors. Let's say dia he or she was supposed to key in 300 ringgit, dia pergi key in terlebih kosong. Dah jadi 3,000, dah salah dah dekat situ. So not only technology, it can also be mistakes from employee. So these are the example of operational risk, not related to technology. Risk of inefficiency. in the operation leading to affecting an institution's income. So for example, when we talk about operational risk, we are talking about quality of personnel. So how do banks hire their staff, hire their employees? So that you have to go through maybe different levels of interviews, kan? Okay. First level with I don't know, maybe with the head of department. Second level, maybe with the some managers. And then the third level can maybe with the CEO. So that is how they control the quality of the staff. You have to go through many layers of interviews to make sure that you are really the right person for that particular job. Also, when we talk about operational risk, we are also talking about the backup system. Do they have a really good backup system to back up? Back office control. Alright, front office, bila you pergi bank, kat depan tu ada orang semua kan, we call it as front office lah. The back office people yang kat belakang, yang the behind one, yang buat all the authorization transactions, yang jaga the system, all those are back office control. And it can also be a support system. Ada nombor contact us, call tak dapat-dapat. Ada email bounce balik. You know the support system. When you have any problems, especially with the services of the banks, so we are also looking at the support system. So if they have a very poor support system, that is also considered as operational risk. All right, next would be products offered by commercial banks. All right, this is actually related to your assignments, because I have groups asking me what are the things that you need to incorporate in your game. What are the information that you need to be in your draft, for example. And because again, saya cerita sikit about the assignments. For your assignments, the focus is actually, because the previous semester I asked the student to actually gather information about the banks. Let's say you are working on Standard Chartered Bank. So what I want to know is, satu is the asset, liability and equity of that bank, just like the financial statement that I showed you before for M-Bank. And then I am also want to look at the products and services offered by that particular bank. So for example, untuk produk, dia ada deposit, dia ada different types of deposit. Dia ada deposit A, deposit B, deposit C, deposit D, macam jenis. Dia ada fixed deposit yang 3 bulan, 6 bulan, 9 bulan, that kind of products. And when we talk about loans, dia ada different types of loan, personal loan, car loan, housing loan, loan kahwin, loan study loan. So all sort of loans. So those are the products and services that I am interested to see in the banks of your assignment. The difference is that for this assignment, instead of you produce me a report, instead of you present me, okay, for Standard Chartered, this is the asset, this is the liability, this is the equity. So for Maybank, this is the product offered, these are the services offered. No, instead of presenting to the class that information, you need to present that information and let the class know that information through a game. Right, so that is why I ask certain groups, whether how do you expect your friends to know apa products offered by certain banks. So maybe you want to show them video ke, nak buat infographic ke, nak buat poster ke, because in your draft nanti that you will send to me next week nanti, I need to also see, bila you kata, I need to see the questions as well. But when you want to see, bila you letak poster, infographic or video, I need you to attach that as well in the form of slides lah, so that I can see apa deposit lah, apa products, apa services yang ada, what type of information that you give to your friends before they are able to answer your game question. Okay, that is the purpose of that game. Bukan nak main sesaja suka-suka bagi soalan yang general. No, because that information tu memang saya perlukan untuk tengok lah. What are the information that you have before your friends are able to answer your game questions. Alright, so when we talk about financial services or product offered by banks, we are talking about deposits, loans and advances, card services as well as electronic banking. So deposit ni boleh jadi macam-macam, loans pun boleh jadi macam-macam. Depending on different banks. All right, so for example, for deposit, okay, we can have savings account, current account, fixed deposit, or general investment account. This is for Islamic. They can have NICD juga, negotiable instrument, and also fixed deposit account. So depending on the banks, sometimes nama dia lain. Contoh for example, certain banks untuk buka account you need only 20 ringgit. Certain type of saving account. Certain type of saving account dia perlukan 100 ringgit. Okay, so those are the products ataupun deposits offered by different banks lah. So basically it is a deposit, tapi to attract the customers, they have to compete kan, nak jual you the product yang canggih-canggih ni. So to compete with other banks, so they come up with different rewards to the customer. So the second, so ni semua deposit lah. And loan and financing, you can compare with whatever information that you have for your assignments too. For example, for loan or financing, they can have equipment loan, education loan, hire purchase, home loan, fixed asset loan. Banyak lah. Ini semua saya combine lah contoh-contoh loan yang ada. Term loan, club membership loan, overdraft facility, property loan, bridging loan, macam-macam jenis yang ada. Trade finance, right? Trade financing ni involved with bankers acceptance. Kita dah buat sebelum. Bank guarantee, shipping guarantee, letter of credit. These are all for trade financing. And card services, they have debit card, credit card, charge card, money markets. Sama jugalah. These are the services provided by commercial banks juga. B&M bills, commercial papers, MGS, repo, and also banks, different types of commercial banks, conventional ataupun Islamic. But please, for your assignment, we only focus on conventional. Any questions so far? Can we take a very short 5 minutes break? Saya nak kena minum air atau betul patut. Alright, so we can continue. Tapi saya kena jerit sikit lah sebab bunyi hujan sangat kuat. Alright, so again, when we look at products and services offered by commercial banks, so I really expect you to read your book because the explanation in detail, for example, about deposits is actually in your book, whereby when we talk about deposit dalam ni, if I can refer to the book, kita discuss on the differences between demand deposit and also other deposits. So please read the book and make sure that whatever information that you have from your bank, that can also be used as your guidelines or information. Because like I said, different banks, they have different products. For example, for deposit, they have different products. But basically, for deposit, we can classify them into demand deposit and also other deposits. And it also includes the fixed deposit. And then when we talk about saving accounts, for example, kan saving account pun ada macam-macam jenis. Other deposits is actually saving accounts. Current account itu under savings lagi, so ada saving, current and also fixed deposit. So ini semua ada, the explanation is actually in your book, so boleh baca. Loans and advances pun, again, if you go back to refer to your book, kita ada juga explain, the discussion is actually on secured loan and also unsecured loan. So macam dalam ni, I just list down to you the different types of loans provided by banks. But for the definition, I really need you to read the book, because ada explanation dekat situ. What does it mean by secured loan? What does it mean by unsecured loan? Whereby kita kata secured loan ni loan yang ada collateral, yang ada cagaran. So unsecured yang tak ada collateral lah. And dalam ni juga kita ada explain on term loan, housing loan. So these are the different types of loans provided by banks. But the detailed explanation is actually dalam buku lah. So I really expect you to read. And we also have detail on personal loan, detail on overdraft facility. overdraft ni untuk siapa overdraft ni is actually biasanya untuk orang yang ada current account lah for overdraft ni. Untuk current account holder sahaja. And also ada explanation on credit card, on charge card and also on debit card. So everybody I think ada ATM card tu kan. So sekarang ni ATM card tu is actually a debit card lah. Boleh digunakan immediately. So and also credit card ada limit biasanya and charge card pun dia macam credit card lah. The function is just like a credit card. And it can be used internationally juga. Not only in Malaysia, it can be used internationally. And dalam ni juga kita ada apa? So I really expect you to read on the services ataupun product offered by bank ni, especially on card service ni. Semua ni explanation ni semua ada dalam buku. Electronic banking, okay, electronic banking pun ada dalam buku but for here under these notes what we have here is a few examples sahaja 4 main areas whereby we have corporate financial EDI, consumer products and also interbank. Alright, so for electronic banking, alright, so when we talk about electronic banking, we are actually talking about both ATM dan juga internet banking yang elektronik lah which means untuk ATM ni I think tak payah nak cerita lah kan, semua orang dah. Untuk internet banking ni pun I think you all above 18 so boleh pakai internet banking, below 18 tak boleh pakai lagi. So internet banking everybody knows the advantages. Number one, saya pun suka fast and convenience, guna phone pun boleh. Okay, so tak payah pergi mana-mana, you just sit there in front of your computer or your phone or your smartphone boleh buat internet banking, boleh buat banking activities or banking transaction. You do not have to wait, tunggulah pukul 10 bank buka. You know, you don't have to pergi bank, cari parking, park, and then bila sampai nak jumpa orang tu tak ada. So fast and convenience internet banking, and then flexible, hassle-free payments, semua benda boleh buat dekat situ. Online cards juga, and you can share your transactions. So sekarang ni memang everybody needs internet banking lah. Kalau tak ada internet banking tu tak tahu macam mana nak buat transaction those are the advantages. Bulan bintang ni kat sini. These advantages, number one is lack of security. Banyak yang kena scam. Even you pergi join yang baru ni tengok ada group kan, you pergi sign up untuk laundry service kot kan, and then dia boleh scam you. Lack of security. Service not sufficient. Sometimes kita, for example, you need to withdraw money. Tak boleh gunakan internet banking lah. You need cash sekarang kan, you have to go to ATM keluarkan duit. Duit tak keluar ikut phone, tak keluar ikut laptop. So service maybe not sufficient. And when you want to talk to someone, internet banking, you tekan-tekan je kan, tanya, jawab email apa semua buat. When you need to talk to someone, we have problem. Orang tu tak ada. You have to go to the bank juga. So service not sufficient. Interruption of service lagi lah. If you do not have internet, you do not have smartphone, you tak boleh buat internet banking. So internet kita sangat penting. The website yang down kan. So those are the disadvantages. Legal and physical infrastructure. So kita suka, we enjoy this internet banking, but for the bank, their legal and physical infrastructure, they need to spend a lot of money. And when we talk about legal issue, it can also be in terms of privacy issue, data protection, semua tu kan. So those are the disadvantages of internet banking. Electronic banking service. Okay, for electronic banking service, it can be for consumer, interbank, products, and also corporate. So we can see for consumer, when we talk about electronic banking, for consumer, we are talking about ATM lah, automated teller machine. ATM kita ada ATM, CDM kan, cash deposit machine lah. Yang mana pakai machine tu, itu kita kata electronic lah. You don't need orang dekat situ kan. So electronic banking. Enable authorized users to withdraw money, cash deposit, transfer of funds, and also balance inquiry. Okay, semua tekan-tekan, you don't have to see orang pun kan. Main functions of ATM, cash withdrawal, inquiry on account balance, deposit cash or check, request statement, checkbook, purchase share, semua boleh buat dekat ATM. Nak top up letak Shengo, semua boleh kan. So banyaklah function dekat ATM ni. Advantages. Okay, everybody knows we're talking about convenience, we're talking about something very fast, and we're talking about cost savings. So like I said, bank do not have to have their people stand by 24 hours a day or 7 days a week. They can have the ATM. International access. So whenever you see these nampak dekat sini maps kalau dekat kad nampak ada maps kan, shared resources, that card can be used overseas in whatever bank yang ada sign maps tu. Let's say you go to overseas, you can use your Maybank card untuk withdraw money overseas because dekat kad tu ada tulis map. So if you need cash over there when you travel overseas. So kita ada international access, shared resources. Alright, so no problem lah advantage dia. Disadvantages. Eliminates the disbursement float. Phantom withdrawal. Kadang-kadang kita tengok kan, dapat kad orang curi long time ago ada cerita-cerita kata boleh, you know, dia pekau orang lah, you know, say something, orang tu boleh ikut dia pergi withdraw duit. Phantom withdrawal. Kad tu orang lain yang ambil, orang lain boleh withdraw. Fraud card pun boleh, system error pun boleh, and also crime lah, crime pun banyak kan. Kadang-kadang tengok crime dia tak main lah ambil duit sikit-sikit kan, dia angkat the machine terus kan. Pecahkan tempat mesin tu terus. So these are the disadvantages of ATM lah. Telephone banking. So telephone banking involves the transactions of retail business between bank and customer. Kita call je. Tekan 1 untuk whatever kan. Tekan 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 tu. Okay. Tekan 0 untuk kembali ke menu asal. Saya kadang-kadang call kan apa benda dia cakap ni kan, tak tahu satu saya nak patah balik. So that is telephone banking. So it can be a voice response. So caller interact with bank central computer. So macam tu lah tekan 1 untuk credit card, tekan 2 apa semua tu, that is telephone banking. Voice recognition, ada juga the system recognize the voice of the caller. And programmable telephone. So caller access using the key earlier program in the phone to telephone banking. So what can we do through telephone banking services? Account inquiry, pay bills, manage funds, message service, monitoring usage, and fund transfer. So all this can be done using telephone banking service, right? Recent development, mobile banking, considered as recent lah, recent development, mobile banking. We have the apps and also chatbot. Next is FPOS. So tengok macam ni, I think we can continue je lah kot sampai habis kot untuk yang ni So dia online ni dia cepat sikit, dia terus jalan je, then you can read semua Alright, so for FPOS, electronic fund transfer point of sale. Okay, ini pun dulu nampak macam impossible but now kita pakai a lot of this electronic point of sale ni. A terminal, retail location, kedai-kedai mana you pergi makan, you scan je. So kita those days for this FPOS ni dia pakai card so you swipe the card ataupun key in the card macam guna credit card. But kita pakai debit card. But now lagi canggih you bayar pakai e-wallet sahaja. So all those are actually advancement in technology. So for point of sale, so account is debited electronically, so automatically deduct from your accounts. Again, we are looking for convenience and also speed. Disadvantage, security, fraudulent transaction are borne by customer until the card is reported lost or stolen. Especially card yang wave je kan, tak payah key in number, so you just wave je. So how to control the usage, maybe untuk card yang guna wave je, maybe you can limit daily transaction berapa, 200 ke 100 ke so that tak ada case whereby ada fraudulent transactions. So ini dah lama lah, no more signature appears on the reverse card Alright, so for corporate, that is customer customer and retail point. So for corporate, they have what we call as EDI, electronic data interchange. So for corporate, it is an electronic bridge between banks and customers, providing detailed trading data and payment information. So corporate pakai EDI lah to respond to customer demand, especially for manufacturers. Again, the advantage dia sama juga lah. Whenever you use technology, we're talking about cost saving, we're talking about quality, we're talking about convenience and faster way of transferring information. So for importer, yang ni saya boleh skip je, you all can read. Alright, interbank electronic banking. Just now we are talking about we as the customer and services provided by the banks, and also corporate customer with the services provided by the bank. What about interbank between bank A and bank B, bank C, bank D? So we're talking about a system that the bank has, and we call it as dulu kita pakai nama dia, we call it as rentas, real-time electronic transfer of funds and securities. And for international interbank, kita ada SWIFT, Society for Worldwide Interbank Financial Telecommunication. So if you have experience transferring money to someone overseas, so to overseas bank, sometimes when we need to key in the account number, we also need to key in the SWIFT code number for that particular country. So itu ialah interbank. I have a lot of in and out dalam ni sebab saya tahu pakai Webex ni dia agak besar, that is why I cannot see many of you yang switch on the camera. Kalau pakai Google Meet dia kurang sikit lah, but pakai Webex ni kadang-kadang saya dekat office ni pun dia macam tersekat juga. But never mind, kita dah 1 jam so saya tak plan nak buat lama pun because this is online je. Tak apa, kita tengok sikit lagi. Alright, so for interbank, old system ni skip je, nama pun old system kan. So now interbank they use system, a system called rentas, real-time electronic transfer of funds and security. So when you use your Maybank to use, saya baru guna je kejap tadi transfer duit dekat orang So the funds transfer from bank, interbank they use a system called rentas. So yang ni kita tak nampak lah this is the kita back office punya system they use this system. Because the old system ni SPITS, sistem lama ni nama SPITS, sistem pemindahan elektronik untuk dana dan security, yang panjang nama dia. Tapi because of the weakness in SPIT ni, they create a new one and they upgrade the system jadi rentas real time, tak payah tunggu-tunggu dah, tak payah tunggu 2-3 hari, you transfer sekarang juga boleh dapat there and then. They replace the old system because the old system could not cater for increasing volume and value. Okay, sekarang lagi lah kan, especially during MCO semua orang buat business ataupun buat transaction using online banking. So they really need a very good and stable system. So advantage of rentas using real time, therefore can control the risk. Okay, remember when we talk about masa money market kita buat hari tu kan, we're talking about transfer of funds yang cepat, yang ada balance, yang there is a balance between surplus and also deficit, and kita belajar juga pasal OPR kan, the rate end of the day bank ada surplus and deficit, so ada bank A pinjam dekat bank B pinjam dekat bank C So this kind of information, so that is why they need this system So the transfer are settled individually without netting debits against credits, and of course we're talking about a better liquidity management for participants, because they know because this is real time, so they don't have to keep track day by day, because this is real time, whatever happens, what to do there and then you boleh nampak the report So this is for international. For interbank worldwide so we call it SWIFT, yang saya kata tadi lah, ada code SWIFT, Society for Worldwide Interbank Financial Transfer, office located in Belgium. Network enable users to transmit between themselves international payment statements and other transactions. Okay, available for non-bank institutions like brokers, dealers, clearing and depository institutions, and exchange for securities. Okay, but a bank has to be a member of SWIFT in order to be able to transmit between users international payment statement. Kenapa kad dia masuk kat belakang ni Alright, so these are the products. Tadi service so here are the products So again, we are looking at smart cards, debit cards, monthly debit so these are the product offered by banks. Debit card. So you can go to your ATM card and tengok lah apa yang ada dekat situ dia tulis debit kat situ. So advantage, again, immediate transfer of funds, cost of handling reduced, theft of cash reduced, tak payah bawa cash, bawa card je. To banks, cheaper and quicker to process than checks, and to customer, of course, easier and quicker than to write checks. Disadvantages, okay, security. Of course, higher risk ada signature appeals. Yang ni tak applicable lah. The risk ni saya kena buang lah part ni. Tak ada signature pun, tak pakai signature tu. Credit card, ada limit. Advantage, means of obtaining credit, nama pun credit card. Easier to use than checks and can withdraw cash over the counter or from ATM. Disadvantage, dia ada annual charge, annual fees. And lagi satu, interest on unpaid balance is high. So this is actually one of the reasons why bila ada research, especially on kata belia kan, high level of a high number of bankruptcy. Bankruptcy dia datang dari credit card debt, hutang credit card. Belanja shock kan, you dapat the credit, you dapat satu card will give you like 30,000 credit, buatlah macam-macam dengan 30,000 tapi tak nak bayar. So if you don't pay, the interest on unpaid balance is really high. Alright, this is the additional part that I included in our notes for Islamic banking. But like I said, this is just in general on the surface sahaja kita nak tengok about Islamic banking. Dan that's why when you prepare for your assignments, don't take the Islamic banking products as one of your products dalam tu, because we are actually focused on only on conventional bank. So for Islamic bank, again, we are talking about just like when you learn takaful together with insurance. So Islamic banking, all banking activities based on Sharia principles. So you can go back to your Sharia financial planning, your insurance and takaful ni semua termasuk dalam ni lah, the concept dia tu. Operate in accordance with fiqh muamalat. So these are the concepts. So these are the difference between, the main difference between Islamic banking and the conventional banking, because the contract ni, the concept ni dalam conventional tak ada. So kita ada wadiah, mudarabah, musyarakah semua ni, babi taman ajir, wakalah, qad hasan, ijarah, bai'inah and also hibah. So those are the concept in Islamic banking. I don't think kita nak tengok in detail lah for apa ni Islamic banking ni, but this is just to show you that for Islamic banking they also have different types of products and the products are actually quite similar to the conventional product. So for deposit sama je term dia. Sana tadi kita kata loan, dekat sini kita kata financing. Right, they also have the card service, credit card pun ada Islamic punya, money market pun dia provide all the I kecil kat belakang tu, as well as investments. It's just that when we talk about the concept or the contract, so for deposit taking, for conventional tadi nama dia deposit je. But for Islamic banking ni, under deposit taking products ni, biasanya you akan nampak al-wadi'ah lah. Dia adalah guaranteed custody. Okay, so for investment, it falls under profit sharing and so on. Okay, yang ni semua boleh baca. So boleh baca lah all the history semua ni. Alright, so these are the asset product dia. Project financing, asset acquisition, financing the use of services, financing the use of services and subsequent asset acquisition. So these are the contract dia. Belakang ni adalah contract lah, contract how it works, the contract. Letter of credit pun dia ada, guarantee pun dia ada, but just they use different principle. Alright, what is the difference? Again, we're talking about Sharia and non-Sharia lah, provided by Islamic bank. Loans and other lending, Islamic banking, dia guna equity participation, they call it financing. Abira, any questions? Stop. But please read your notes and also your book. Untuk notes, I expect you to read all on apa tadi kita tengok, all on internet banking, on cards, on loans and also deposits. But for Islamic banking ni, dalam buku ada tapi chapter belakang. So if you need more information, you can read chapter 12 in your book. Ada kita cerita on Islamic banking dekat situ. But for your assignment, I really expect you to include only conventional product. Alright, any questions? Ada ketidur dah semua ni. Ada lagi tak orang ni? Are you still there?
Ada
Ada.
Ada, Doktor.
I ada, kau tak ada rotan semua. Alright, so if you don't have any questions, saya ada prepare capital market quiz for you. Tapi saya belum on lagi dekat dalam My Guru. And I will give you 1 week to answer. The due date is before Tuesday next week. So next week kita kelas macam biasa, dekat kelas kita kat bawah ni je lah. Sebab saya kat office ni sekarang. And for your assignment, if you need to see me untuk tengok the draft, saya ada masa sikit esok. Dan petang ni saya ada group yang ada plan untuk online je kan. So you can stay online. Sekarang pukul. But I have to go by 5. So tomorrow morning saya ada masa sikit pukul pukul 9. So kalau you all free besok pagi, saya free 9 to 11. Pukul 11 saya ada meeting lain. Lepas tu dah tak free dah lah. So if you want to see me besok pagi pukul 9, you can come to datang sini lah. Level 3 lah. You can come and see me dekat office level 3 ni. Besok pagi. If you need me to check your draft for the last time before you submit. Otherwise, mana yang rasa dah okay, then you can submit before end of week 10 lah. Macam saya kata, I need you and I expect you to print dan buat and send your draft properly. Okay, and those of you who are volunteering, saya tak ada masa lagi lah nak jumpa, tapi I think we don't need that masa yang lama sangat lah untuk kita discuss. So nanti I think I will contact you again lah kalau macam tu. Alright.